Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Soul Land 2 Peerless Tang Men based on novel. So let's start. This time, it was probably Huo Yuhao's least confident attempt in fusing with a spirit, apart from the time when he had fused the Snow Empress. However, it was also his most important fusion. Low-pitched incantations echoed in the sea water. Huo Yuhao released gentle spiritual undulations from his body. These undulations spread towards the mermaid on the frigid jade bed, releasing a gentle aura. The mermaid was deep in sleep. Her soul had been crushed, and the spiritual power in her spiritual sea was close to drying up. Her soul power had already ceased to exist, and her life energy was almost fully drained. Everything pointed to the fact that she was about to die. However, she was still very beautiful in this state. Her giant tail still shone with a dim, golden glow. Huo Yuhao's spiritual power was also dim gold. As he recited incantations, his spiritual power engulfed her body and covered her in a layer of gold. It also seemed to give her a layer of life energy. Soft and gentle incantations echoed continually. Huo Yuhao's body also turned golden. An ethereal projection of a hexagram array appeared underneath his feet. He was well into the recitation of his incantations. Tang Wuong, the princess of the sea, and the others were all watching intently from one side. In this aquatic world, there wasn't any danger from the outside world. The real danger only came from the fusion process. No one knew what the result would be, but they were all praying for success. Slowly, a strange aura came from the sleeping mermaid. This aura manifested as streaks of golden light. These streaks of light were released from her head. As they were released, they crystallized, and dense soul undulations also appeared. The princess of the sea grabbed the hand of her eldest daughter tightly. The streaks of golden light were the remnants of the soul energy of her youngest daughter's soul. Once they dissipated, any indication of her youngest daughter's life would cease to exist. She would be truly dead. Huo Yuhao appeared as calm as could be. He gently moved his hands in the air to fit the rhythm of his incantations. The soul energy released from the mermaid started to gather under his control. Slowly, it took a humanoid appearance of a human. It was the appearance of the mermaid. It was just that she had no expression right now. It didn't seem any different to her sleeping self. The princess of the sea was very tense when she saw this. She knew that Huo Yuhao's compression of her soul energy using his spiritual power could only last for some time. Once he let go, her daughter's soul energy couldn't possibly return to her body. This also meant that there was no room for regret now. Of course, Huo Yuhao wasn't going to back out. He only had one chance, and there wasn't any room for failure. Huo Yuhao's voice became more high-pitched as he recited the incantations. His eye of destiny also completely lit up, and a beam of golden light shot out of it, striking the soul of the mermaid. The gentle soul undulations started to become more intense. The mermaid's soul started to gradually open her eyes. When she opened her eyes, she immediately revealed her emotions. She was even very emotional. Fear, it was extreme fear. She was completely at a loss. She was so fearful that there was only terror, sorrow, fear, and all other types of negative emotions in her eyes. Tang Wuong's heart sank. She clearly knew how difficult it was to fuse with a spirit under such conditions. Huo Yuhao shook a little, but he didn't stop reciting the incantations. His eyes were still fixated on the mermaid, as he tried to communicate with her on a spiritual level. The mermaid's soul was struggling intensely to break free. Her powerful soul energy could be felt. She was struggling as hard as she could to destroy and break free from the restraints she had been placed under. However, she would forever leave this world if she managed to do so. At this moment, the princess of the sea and her daughter were very anxious. The princess of the sea really wanted to comfort her daughter. However, she couldn't do so. She could do so at all. Right now, the sleeping mermaid could only see Huo Yuhao, as she was stimulated by his spiritual power. She couldn't see anyone else, and was completely immersed in his incantations. Only Huo Yuhao's spiritual power surrounded her, and he was the only one trying to comfort her. No, no, no. The mermaid was struggling as hard as she could. The entire contract was shaking tremendously. Huo Yuhao's hexagram array even started to crack. The spiritual power of this mermaid was very strong, even stronger than that of her elder sister. Even though only a part of her soul remained, she was still resisting so hard that Huo Yuhao was about to cave in. After all, he had completely let himself go as he recited the incantations. He had no ability to resist at all. He was completely subjected to any impact inflicted on him by the other party's soul. Fresh blood flowed from Huo Yuhao's mouth, nose and ears. At this point, they were just pitting their spiritual power against each other. No, they weren't fighting at all. Rather, Huo Yuhao was trying to persuade the mermaid. If he couldn't do so, he would undoubtedly suffer a major backlash. In addition to that, he would fail completely. Tang Wuong clenched her fists. At this point, no one could help Huo Yuhao. It was just a spiritual interaction. Furthermore, it had nothing to do with the strength of one's spiritual power. Such an equal contract could only be fulfilled if both parties were willing. Otherwise, failure was inevitable. Huo Yuhao was holding on as well as he could right now. This was why he was suffering from a backlash. Otherwise, he could have given up on the contract earlier and allowed the mermaid's soul to dissipate. However, how could he possibly do that? The princess of the sea could no longer bear to watch. From the condition Huo Yuhao was in, she could tell that he was already trying his best. He couldn't do any better. My little girl, are you really fated to die like this? Huo Yuhao was also becoming more and more dejected as time passed. The negative emotions experienced by this mermaid were much worse than he had expected. He couldn't sense any positive emotions coming from her at all. Her negative emotions were raging. When she felt that she was a human, she immediately resisted with all her might. Under this circumstance, hanging on even for a while longer took a huge toll on him, much less completing the equal contract. What should I do? What should I do? Huo Yuhao tried to think of various solutions, but this was his first time experiencing such a situation. What kind of appropriate solution could he think of? He could only try his best to last a little longer, and hope that this mermaid would experience a change in her emotions. That would give him an opportunity to explain himself. However, things didn't go the way he wanted. Not only did her emotions not show any signs of changing, but they even became more frenzied. Huo Yuhao's spiritual sea started to show little cracks, as it clashed with her spiritual power. I can't hold on. I think I really can't hold on anymore. Huo Yuhao laughed bitterly to himself. He couldn't use his life to exchange for more time. There were still 5 other spirits in his spiritual sea. Once there was critical damage to his spiritual sea, his 5 other spirits would also be critically hurt. He sighed to himself. Although he was very unwilling, he also recognized that there was no other way. He could only choose to give up. The contract was at its peak right now. The souls of both parties were starting to interact. Even though the mermaid greatly ostracized Huo Yuhao, their souls still had a chance to interact under an equal contract. This was going to be his only try. If this mermaid didn't show any signs of improving after they interacted, Huo Yuhao would have to end this fusion. Otherwise, he might suffer irreparable injuries. Once their souls interacted, everything happened according to Huo Yuhao's expectations. The mermaid's soul immediately jumped away in fear, as if she had been greatly shocked. No, it's still not working. Do I really have to give up? Just as Huo Yuhao was feeling hopeless, the mermaid's soul actually calmed down for a moment. Following this, she seemed to be in a slight daze, and just stared at Huo Yuhao. What? She's no longer attacking me. She's no longer trying to break free from me. Huo Yuhao was also a little perplexed. He had tried so hard earlier, but didn't achieve anything. Why was it that things were on the brink of changing now that he was about to give up? At this moment, a layer of white light appeared within Huo Yuhao's soul. This layer of white light wasn't under Huo Yuhao's control. Then, it separated from his soul and drifted in mid-air. After this, the layer of white light expanded until it transformed into an image. It looked the same as that mermaid. Huo Yuhao was astonished when he saw this. The princess of the sea and her other daughter were also astonished. This was clearly her soul origin. Although only a streak of it was left, it seemed to contain something within it. As the white light flashed, it landed on the mermaid's body. Suddenly, she calmed down. The way she looked at Huo Yuhao also changed. Her gaze turned much gentler. When she looked at Huo Yuhao, she seemed to be sighing softly. Her soul also started to experience changes. Originally, it only had a face. However, it soon grew bigger, and a body started to appear. It adopted the look of a mermaid as it drifted in mid-air. This is a Merfolk's blessing. The princess of the sea exclaimed. Tang Wuong was confused as she looked at the princess of the sea. She asked, "Elder, what's a Merfolk's blessing?" The princess of the sea said, "We mermaids are known for our spiritual power. Each of us has the opportunity to offer a blessing once in our lives. The person that's blessed by us will be fortunate, and he'll forever be seen as a friend to Merfolk. If it's someone from our species, it's a show of love. This person has actually received a mermaid's blessing. In addition, it's from my pitiful daughter. How is this possible? What has happened?" Tang Wuong suddenly recalled what had happened during that fight. She was astonished as she said, "I think I know what's going on. Before we came here, we teamed up to kill the evil soul master, who harmed your daughter. Among the avenging spirits that belonged to him, one had the appearance of a mermaid. Yuhao used his power of purification to cleanse her. Before that mermaid avenging spirit disappeared, it released a spot of white light that landed on Yuhao's body. Is that likely to be the mermaid's blessing that you're talking about?" The princess of the sea teared up once again. This time, her tears weren't golden. They appeared as clear white pearls. They were tears of bliss and guilt. She felt guilty for how she had targeted Huo Yuhao and Tang Wuong in the past, and blissful, because her daughter was able to survive. The mermaid seemed to recognize Huo Yuhao after the fusion was granted a mermaid's blessing. She no longer appeared fearful anymore. There was only a look of kinship and gratitude in her eyes. The incantations and the contract continued. Without any resistance, everything was successful. Golden flowing light surrounded Huo Yuhao and the mermaid. Huo Yuhao's spiritual sea contained 5 powerful spirits as of now. In fact, it was already at its bottleneck previously. However, it was further enriched by the golden pearls. Furthermore, with the princess of the sea's golden pearls, his spiritual sea was extremely compatible with this mermaid. As their spiritual powers interacted, Huo Yuhao didn't feel as if his spiritual power had reached a bottleneck. On the contrary, the cracks that had formed in his spiritual sea earlier quickly healed, and his spiritual sea was even expanding at a rapid speed. This was absolutely a delightful surprise. Was this the effect of a spiritual type spirit? Before this, Huo Yuhao didn't have a pure spiritual type spirit. This mermaid was his first. During the fusion process, the mermaid could also sense the memories that Huo Yuhao let go of. Her expression turned gentler and gentler. Her lower body gradually turned pure gold after she lost her soul. After this, her body started to turn into light before transforming into spots of golden light that drifted up. The mermaid didn't absorb these spots of golden light. When Huo Yuhao finally finished reciting his incantations, her body had already turned completely golden. She moved her tail slightly before landing on his shoulder. The bubbles that were originally around Huo Yuhao were crushed. However, Huo Yuhao didn't feel suffocated at all. It was as if air had surged into his pores from all directions. In addition, he could clearly feel his spiritual power growing very quickly. It didn't seem that there was an upper limit either. His spiritual soul core expanded. The dim gold of the golden pearls earlier turned bright gold now. His entire spiritual sea grew by more than a third. In his spiritual sea, the sea water was no longer viscous, but completely solid. The color of the sea water was also much deeper. His immense spiritual power spread, and even left the surface of the sea. He could sense everything around the sea and the entire underwater palace by now. The mermaid finally saw her mother and elder sister. There was a sorrowful look in her eyes, but there was also a look of delight now that she had gotten a new life. Right now, she wasn't stable as a spirit yet. This was why she still couldn't speak. She gently moved her tail, and the golden lights that were formed from her body drifted out before landing on her elder sister. Suddenly, her crown turned from silver to gold, and her silver tail also turned golden. This was the strength of her lineage. The mermaid, who had just become Huo Yuhao's spirit, fused the strength of her lineage and passed it on to her elder sister. She passed the golden Merfolk lineage to her elder sister, so that her elder sister could continue to pass it down and become the next princess of the sea. This was the last thing that she had left in the sea. From now on, she was no longer part of the Merfolk, but Huo Yuhao's sixth spirit. The princess of the sea and her daughter were both tearing up by now. From the memories of this mermaid, Huo Yuhao learned that she was called Li Ya, and her elder sister was called Li Jing. Dim light flashed, and Huo Yuhao revealed a smile on his face. Elder, I was lucky to have been successful. Although Her Highness cannot recover, she can at least live in a different state. As long as I'm alive, she'll exist. After he finished speaking, Huo Yuhao sat cross-legged on the ground and went into meditation. Although the mermaid was close to dying before she became his spirit, she still carried the golden blood and lineage of the mermaids. Her spiritual power was extremely great, even greater than her elder sister. Huo Yuhao fused with her as a spirit, causing his spiritual sea to balloon. Even his soul core evolved. He needed time to digest and adapt to everything. White light flashed, and the Snow Empress appeared out of thin air in front of the Princess of the Sea. She smiled at her and said, "Princess of the Sea, I'm sure you don't think I'm fake now, right?" The Princess of the Sea lowered her head in guilt and answered, "Apologies, Snow Empress. I was blinded by hate. If not for the sea god's warning, we would have committed a serious error. However, I don't understand why you and the Ice Empress became spirits of this young fellow. What's so special about him?" The Snow Empress sighed and said, "If I had to guess, he's a man of destiny. All of you can come out now." As the Snow Empress called, the other four spirits also separated themselves from Huo Yuhao's body and appeared in front of the Princess of the Sea. The Snow Empress said, "Let me introduce her first. You know Ice, so I won't say much about her. This is Sky Dream. In terms of cultivation, he was the strongest in the ice plains of the extreme north. He's also the only one in the continent right now whose cultivation is above 1,000,000 years. The Princess of the Sea was stunned as she looked at the Sky Dream iceworm. 1,000,000 years. As a 600,000-year aquatic soul beast, she clearly knew how difficult it was to achieve a breakthrough at such an advanced stage of cultivation. It's unbelievable to know that a soul beast in the ice plains can actually reach 1,000,000-year cultivation. The Sky Dream iceworm laughed bitterly. "Snow Empress, don't overpraise me. I'm just food to many soul beasts. Princess of the Sea, I know you are worried about your daughter. In fact, let me enlighten you with my experience." The Sky Dream iceworm recounted how he had become Huo Yuhao's first soul ring, and how the Ice Empress became his second martial soul. Just like the Snow Empress mentioned, the Ice Empress, Snow Empress and Sky Dream iceworm's fusion with Huo Yuhao was a stroke of fate, whereas the Star Anise mysterious Ice Grass and Ice Bear King did it of their own accord. After listening to the Sky Dream iceworm's account, the Princess of the Sea finally understood why Huo Yuhao was so magical, and how he had managed to come up with spirits, which was unheard of before. The Snow Empress said, "We didn't have any confidence when we first followed Yuhao. However, as time passed, his character and abilities earned our recognition. He's currently working towards the goal that he promised Sky Dream when he first fused with him. If he manages to fulfill it one day, we'll be able to rise to the heavens with him and break free from the restraints of this world." After hearing the Snow Empress words, the Princess of the Sea's eyes brightened. While the Snow and Ice Empresses are taking a gamble, this young fellow's fortune has been raised to a very high standard, given the amount of strength that he has gathered. Perhaps he might really stand a chance at breaking free from the restraints of this world. When that happens, The princess of the sea started to become envious, and her imagination started to run wild. After a brief moment, she restrained the stroke of impulse in her heart. She knew that her daughter carried the hope of the mermaids when she had fused with Huo Yuhao. While she had the desire to do the same thing, she knew that she had just reached a 600,000-year cultivation and still had a long time to live. The aquatic soul beasts of the ice sea still needed her. Furthermore, becoming a god was almost a dream. This was why she eventually restrained her desire. She then turned her attention to Tang Wuong, Yuan the sea god are. The princess of the sea and Li Jing weren't the only curious ones. Huo Yuhao's 5 spirits were also equally curious. The changes in the late stages of the fight happened because of Tang Wuong. If not for that strange projection she summoned, they would all have been stranded here, and Huo Yuhao would have perished. Tang Wuong smiled and replied, "My last soul skill is called Descent of the Sea God." The princess of the sea shuddered a little and muttered, "Descent of the Sea God. Indeed, it's indeed the sea god." She lifted her head to look at Tang Wuong once again, and saw the deep gaze in Tang Wuong's eyes. She didn't probe further, and only bowed respectfully to her. Tang Wuong returned the bow, and didn't explain further. The ice and snow empresses looked at each other. They were both astonished as they looked at Tang Wuong. Sea god's descent. Is she actually a god? This soul skill is too strong. Even though Tang Wuong's soul ring turned grey after unleashing that soul skill, and she probably needed a lot of time to recover before being able to unleash it, it was their first time seeing a soul skill that was that powerful. What soul beast or spirit could possibly give her such a soul ring? Tang Wuong settled down in the underwater world and waited for Huo Yuhao's meditation to end. Just as they were deep in the sea, a huge storm was brewing in the Sunmoon Empire. The imperial palace of the Sunmoon Empire. Xu Qianran was seated on his throne, and there was strong killing intent in his eyes. Hundreds of officials were kneeling down in front of him. The entire palace was filled with a tense atmosphere. No one even dared to breathe loudly. Are all of you aware? In just a short few days, a soul formation at the Mingdo mountain range was attacked and destroyed. Following that, Oak City and Eastern Sun City were attacked and looted. The intelligence that we obtained has actually only indicated that the other party is a group of soul engineers. As for how many of them there were or what soul tools they used, it is unclear. Who can tell me where this soul engineer legion came from, and how they snuck into our borders? Or do they actually belong to us? Xu Qianran was shouting by the time he was finished. His furious roars echoed throughout the entire palace. The officials were all terrified. They didn't dare to say anything impulsive in front of Xu Qianran in his state of fury. "Military chief, tell me. What's going on?" Xu Qianran glared at the military chief, who was standing in the front row. The military chief was already more than 60. He had no choice but to straighten his back and furrow his brow as he said, "Your Majesty, I've also been pondering this issue after receiving the news. It's likely to be the work of those from the Star Luo Empire, at the border of the Mingdo mountain range. After all, it's close to their empire. If they used some special method to hide from our aerial surveillance soul tools and launch an all-out assault, it's possible for them to complete such an ambush." "Nonsense!" Xu Qianran roared, "Hide. How can they do that? You're the military chief. Don't you know how many aerial surveillance soul tools we have deployed at the border? This time, all our aerial surveillance soul tools were wiped clean. We've suffered heavy losses. The attack even came from within our territories, and not from the Mingdo mountain range. You say it's the work of the Star Luo Empire. Where's the proof? Where is it? How many enemies were there?" The military chief laughed bitterly. "That's something I can't understand either. To attack such a large-scale soul formation of ours, it's important for them to be immensely strong. However, they didn't leave any traces behind when our reinforcements arrived. The guards that survived the attack only claimed to have seen soul tools similar to our all-terrain self-driving forts. They were present in large numbers too. They overwhelmed us, which led to defeat. As for where those self-driving forts disappeared to, we are also unaware. As news was passed to Radiant City, the border troops deployed almost all our aerial surveillance Sol tools to sweep the area, hoping to find where the problem was. However, we were disappointed. We didn't find any clues. We only found possible traces that an army might have been stationed in a patch of forest. That's all. Our enemies seem to have vanished into thin air. What about Oak City and Eastern City? Did they also vanish into thin air? Xu Qianran's fury seemed to have been restrained a little. The military chief said, "Given the current situation, I'm afraid that's the case. We obtained more detailed intelligence from both cities. Oak City was also subjected to a similar attack. The enemy's attack was simply too much for a city like Oak City to defend against. The city was quickly looted in a short period of time. Not long afterward, Eastern Sun City was attacked. However, the Seoul Engineer Legion that attacked Eastern Sun City didn't use any self-driving forts. Rather, it was an elite, fully equipped Seoul Engineer Legion. They were simply too strong. Even the two titled Doluor from the Holy Ghost Church suffered at their hands. All our resources in the Seoul Formation and warehouses in Eastern Sun City were completely looted. Xu Qianran's breathing became heavier. He was panting in large breaths. Clearly, he was enraged. Normally, he was able to control his emotions. However, how could he possibly remain calm after receiving so much bad news? The reason why he was furious was actually because he was terrified. How could he tolerate someone else in his backyard? He didn't even know the background of his enemies, and his empire had been subjected to such huge blows. It was very worrying for him. Right now, the Sunmoon Empire was launching a very heavy assault on the three empires of the original Doluor continent. At such a time, news of victory was spreading very quickly from the front lines. Under Juzi's leadership, the Sunmoon Empire relentlessly attacked the other territories and achieved success. This should be a period of success for the nation. However, news of instability was coming from the back end. 1, perhaps 2, Seoul Engineer Legions had entered the empire. However, their aerial surveillance Seoul tools didn't reveal anything. No one even knew how they had managed to sneak in. This Seoul Engineer Legion was extremely effective. Clearly, the empire was at great risk. Under such a circumstance, Xu Qianran was even plagued by nightmares. How could he not be furious? Your Majesty. An elder beside the military chief lifted his head. He was even older, perhaps around 70. He was the chief minister, the head of all the ministers. Chief minister, please speak. Xu Qianran was much more courteous towards this chief minister. Without his support, there was no way he could have stabilized his position as emperor. Your Majesty, now is not the time to be angry. We need to find this group of enemies first and destroy them at all costs. That's important to alleviate any worries at the front lines. Xu Qianran nodded slightly. He was an anti-hero. Although things were disastrous at the back end, he didn't think of pulling Juzi and the army back. Currently, it was very possible that the Seoul Engineer Legion hailed from one of the three other empires on the Doluor continent. He had already sent people to inform Juzi of what was happening, and find out whether there were any important legions that were missing at the front lines. If this Seoul Engineer Legion came from one of the three empires, and was sent into the Sunmoon Empire, their goal would be very easy to understand, restrain and destabilize the morale of the army at the front line. Once the Sunmoon Empire's army retreated from the front line, the empire would have been tricked. Xu Qianran gestured and said, "Everyone, rise. Prepare a seat for the chief minister." After hearing that his tone of voice was not as furious as it was before, all the officials secretly heaved a sigh of relief. The atmosphere in the palace also relaxed much more. The chief minister didn't stand on ceremony either. He had been through 3 emperors, and was very well respected. As he sat and looked at the other officials, it seemed like he was looking down on them. "What suggestions do you have?" Xu Qianran asked. The military chief replied, "Given the current situation, we must first stabilize the north before getting rid of this group of thieves. Shu Qianran laughed bitterly. These thieves have really captured the correct timing. This is when we are the emptiest inside. We've sent out most of our Soul Engineer legions for this war. Only the Sunmoon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion is stationed in Radiant City, as well as 2 other Soul Engineer Legions defending more important sites. To counter a Soul Engineer Legion, we need another Soul Engineer Legion. We're a little overwhelmed now. The Chief Minister said, desperate times call for desperate measures. I think we need to determine where this group of thieves are first before we can target them. When necessary, we should use our greatest strength. No. The military chief reacted anxiously after hearing that. Your Majesty, Radiant City is the most important. The Chief Minister furrowed his brow and said, if we don't use our greatest fighting strength, we'll only appear powerful. At such an important period, what other suggestions do you have if you don't adopt mine? The military chief went silent. He had many suggestions, but couldn't achieve anything without the means. To unite the entire Doluo continent, the Sunmoon Empire had gone all in, sending out all their main fighting Soul Engineer legions. All types of Soul tools were also being manufactured. At the same time, new Soul Engineer legions were also being trained. However, time was still needed for the results to be seen. Over the past 2 years, the warehouses had been depleted to advance the speed of developing Soul tools. If not for the fact that resources were being shipped back from the Heavenly Soul Empire, the Sunmoon Empire would have been unable to proceed further. However, similarly, the officials realized the benefits of war after they saw the benefits of occupying the Heavenly Soul Empire. This was why Zhu Zi had gained a lot of recognition from leading the army. Military Chief, how's the training for our new army going? Shu Qianran asked. The military chief replied, currently, we are seeing progress for the 4 new armies that we've been training. However, we are still lacking in equipment. Only 2 new armies are equipped well enough for fighting. All our factories are operating at full capacity, but we'll still need half a year for all 4 armies to be fully equipped. These new Soul Engineer legions were all equipped with Class 4 Link Soul tools, and the Soul Masters in these legions had to have at least 3 rings. This was already the best the Sunmoon Empire could do. Many Soul Masters were even recruited from the Heavenly Soul Empire. This video will end here.